Lumus Maxima. Look, not even my spell is powerful enough to shed light on this story. Because this story is shrouded in darkness. Perhaps there is no darker tale in the entire magical world, and I assure you, in my adventures, I've encountered a lot of dark and sinister places. My dear wizards, witches, muggles and squibs, it's still me, Quentin Penterman. And today, we will uncover the story behind the one who is perhaps unanimously considered the most powerful dark wizard of all time, even surpassing Grindelwald. We will discover his origins, his psychology, his desires and fears, his rise to power until his fall. Today, we speak of Lord Voldemort. Today, my dear viewers, we speak of Lord Voldemort.
Change it! That name cannot be said!
Come on, you guys, that was 20 years ago, you simpletons. Today we speak of the wizard who was born burdened with a muggle name, a name towards which he would forever hold resentment, and which would forever influence his journey into darkness. Tom Marvolo Riddle. Go ahead, try to bleep this out.
The House of Gaunt, once a renowned and wealthy family in the wizarding world, traces its origins back to either Great Britain or Ireland. It included many powerful wizards and witches, notably Salazar Slytherin, one of the 4 founders of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and Cadmus Peverell, the middle of the Peverell brothers, and one of the original masters of the Deathly Hallows, who possessed the Resurrection Stone. By the early 20th century, their dynasty had declined into destitution, with only a few old heirlooms left, and residing in a small, dilapidated shack, owned by Marvolo Gaunt, the head of the family at the time, who lived there with his children, Morfin and Merope. Generations of inbreeding had rendered the Gaunts violent, mentally unstable, and impoverished. In her early years, Merope exhibited little magical talent, and was consequently subjected to mental and physical abuse by her father, who called her a disgusting little squib. This abuse largely suppressed Merope's magical abilities, making it a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is believed that her magical powers were influenced by her emotional state, and enduring chronic negative emotions significantly interfered with her abilities. During her youth, Merope secretly fell in love with Tom Riddle Sr., a strikingly handsome and wealthy muggle, the only child of Thomas and Mary Riddle, who lived nearby in Little Hangleton. Her father was enraged when Morfin disclosed this to him in the summer of 1925 and attacked her physically, but was restrained by Bob Ogden, a Ministry of Magic official. Ogden arrested both Marvolo and Morfin, who had cursed Riddle because his sister had been hanging out of her window to gaze at him as he rode by. With her family in Azkaban, Merope manipulated Tom Riddle into marrying her, presumably using a love potion.
I love you, Merope.
A few months into the marriage, Merope Gaunt became pregnant and decided to release Riddle from his mental enslavement, hoping either that her husband would have truly fallen in love with her by that point, or that he would at least stay for the sake of their unborn child. Unfortunately for her, Riddle did nothing of the sort and fled back to his family's home, believing he had been bewitched.
You are a witch.
After her husband's sudden escape, Merope soon fell into a deep depression and lived as a pauper in London, selling her valuables to survive. She sold her locket, a family heirloom belonging to Salazar Slytherin, and one of her father's most treasured possessions to Borgin & Burke's, a shop known for dealing in dark and rare magical objects in Knockturn Alley for only 10 galleons. She either did not know that it was a priceless artifact, or wanted to sever ties with her abusive father, valuing the meager profits much more than the painful reminder of her family. With her heart broken and her dreams shattered, Merope's powers waned due to her depression and unrequited love for Riddle. On New Year's Eve in 1926, she stumbled up the steps of an orphanage, about to give birth to a son. Merope informed Mrs. Cole, the matron of the orphanage, that she wished to name him Tom after his father, Marvolo after her father, and Riddle as his surname. Childbirth claimed Merope's life. Her death and the abandonment of her newborn son would indelibly shape the psyche of Tom Marvolo Riddle and, in the years to come, forever shape the history of the wizarding world. Growing up in the grim surroundings of this institution, Tom remained oblivious to his wizarding heritage. The Muggle staff, unaware of his mother's true identity, believed her to be a circus worker, a misconception conveyed to Dumbledore by Mrs. Cole before his initial meeting with Tom. The boy exhibited abilities beyond those of normal magical children his age, displaying an extraordinary level of control over them. He could manipulate objects with his mind and exert influence over creatures. His powers also extended to causing harm, as evidenced by an incident where he hung a fellow orphan's rabbit from the rafters after a quarrel. On another occasion, he traumatized 2 other orphans in a cave, likely using his abilities to instill fear. Riddle also engaged in theft, hoarding stolen items as trophies in a box inside his wardrobe. When Tom was 11, Dumbledore, then the Transfiguration teacher at Hogwarts, learned of his extraordinary influence over the other children from Mrs. Cole. When introduced to the boy, Dumbledore dispelled his initial apprehension by revealing Hogwarts as a school for magic and demonstrating his own magical abilities. Tom, who had always harbored a desire to be different, eagerly embraced the revelation of his wizarding heritage. He expressed proficiency in Parseltongue and showed a fear of death, considering it a human frailty. Little Tom, in fact, was certain that his magical powers were inherited from his father, not his mother, because in his naive logic, a wizard could never die. After Dumbledore's warnings about the consequences of misusing magic, Tom's demeanor changed after their encounter, becoming more guarded and adopting a facade of kindness. Recognizing Tom's potential for darkness, Dumbledore resolved to keep a close watch on him, providing guidance and financial support for his schooling. Tom ventured to Diagon Alley alone, where he purchased his wand from Ollivanders, unknowingly selecting a wand with a phoenix feather core that would later be shared by Harry Potter's wand. Tom Marvolo Riddle's upbringing at Wool's Orphanage offered deep insights into his developing personality, marked by clear signs of malignant narcissism. This condition manifested in traits like grandiosity, inflated self-importance, manipulativeness, and a lack of empathy. Growing up in an environment devoid of love and nurturing disrupted his ability to develop empathy and healthy relationships. Consequently, Tom's psyche was marred by deep insecurities and a pervasive sense of inadequacy, fueling his insatiable thirst for control and validation. At the orphanage, Tom Riddle showed a remarkable talent for evading detection while exerting influence over peers and authority figures alike. His sharp intellect and adept manipulation skills enabled him to navigate social dynamics with precision, often instilling fear in others. However, his encounter with Albus Dumbledore marked a pivotal moment. Despite using his usual tactics, Tom couldn't manipulate Dumbledore as effortlessly as others. The wise wizard's unwavering authority and keen insight into Riddle's true nature reminded him of his own limitations. During his time at Hogwarts from 1938 to 1945, Riddle was sorted into Slytherin House, a homage to his esteemed ancestor Salazar Slytherin. Despite the prestigious setting, Riddle dreaded the return to his Muggle orphanage during summer breaks, viewing it with disdain. Tom cultivated a persona at Hogwarts that portrayed him as poor but brilliant, parentless but so brave, a school prefect, a model student. His adept acting skills and striking appearance enabled him to convince most of the Hogwarts staff and faculty that this facade reflected his true nature. However, Dumbledore remained an exception. While not overtly suspicious of Riddle, he harbored reservations due to Tom's past misdeeds at the orphanage and his unsettling demeanor during their initial encounter. Riddle, in turn, regretted revealing his true character to Dumbledore and refrained from attempting to win him over like he did with others, eventually developing a fear and animosity towards his teacher. During his tenure, Tom formed a clique of Slytherin peers comprising the weak seeking protection, the ambitious seeking shared glory, and the thuggish drawn to a leader capable of refined cruelty. Many of these individuals would later become the first Death Eaters. While Riddle portrayed them as friends in public, they served as nothing more than pawns to him, and he cared little for their well-being. Manipulating them into committing petty crimes and misdeeds, Tom ensured that none of their actions could be reliably traced back to the group.
Ah, there you are, my beloved viewers. Fear not, I'll be quicker than a golden snitch. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here for this episode of the Spellbook Chronicles. And if you think Quentin Pendragon is charming enough to deserve your generous support, you might consider leaving a like. And I highly recommend subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell icon to make sure you don't miss a single episode. Oh, but if you are wizards and witches truly hungry for knowledge, you might consider joining the channel for just a couple of galleons. Every month, you will be guaranteed priority access to all new videos on the channel. Plus, you will be rewarded every month with new exclusive special content just for you. So, what are you waiting for?
Upon his enrollment at Hogwarts, Tom Riddle's fixation on his lineage intensified, driving him to delve into his ancestry with unyielding determination. Convinced of his father's wizarding heritage, he scoured the school's archives and historical records in search of any trace of his paternal lineage, only to confront the bitter reality that his father was a Muggle. In a symbolic act of defiance against his heritage, he adopted the moniker Lord Voldemort, an anagram of his given name, which reminded him of his non-magical lineage. With the revelation of his maternal bloodline tracing back to the Gaunt family, descendants of Salazar Slytherin himself, Tom unearthed the existence of the Chamber of Secrets, a hidden chamber rumored to house a deadly creature. Claiming his rightful status as the heir of Slytherin, Riddle resolved to unlock the chamber and unleash its guardian, the Basilisk, to purge Hogwarts of what he deemed unworthy, Muggle-born students. In June of 1943, the Basilisk's petrifying gaze cast a shadow of fear over Hogwarts, culminating in the tragic demise of student Myrtle Warren. Faced with the prospect of the school's closure, Riddle cunningly framed Hagrid and his pet Acromantula, Aragog, as the perpetrators behind the attacks. Exploiting the fear and prejudice against magical creatures, he manipulated Headmaster Armando Dippet into expelling Hagrid and awarding him a trophy for his supposed service to the school. However, Dumbledore remained skeptical of Tom's version of events, keeping a vigilant eye on the student. Recognizing the risk of exposing himself further, Riddle refrained from unleashing the full extent of his dark intentions while still a student. Instead, he orchestrated Myrtle's demise to create the first of his Horcruxes, malevolent artifacts imbued with fragments of his soul, concealed within his school diary, paving the way for the fulfillment of Salazar Slytherin's legacy. In the summer of 1943, Tom Riddle embarked on a journey to Little Hangleton, seeking to unravel the mysteries of his maternal lineage. At the decrepit Gaunt shack, he encountered his uncle, Morphin, whose crude demeanor failed to impress him. During their conversation, the old man casually remarked on Tom's resemblance to his Muggle father, igniting Tom's rage and thirst for vengeance. Without hesitation, he incapacitated Morphin, seized his wand, and proceeded to the nearby Riddle house. Armed with his uncle's wand, he mercilessly executed his father, grandfather, and grandmother with the deadly killing curse, extinguishing their lives in a swift and brutal manner. To conceal his heinous deeds, Tom manipulated his Uncle Morphin's memories, implanting false recollections that implicated him as the perpetrator of the murders. When the Ministry of Magic launched an investigation into the tragic event, Morphin readily confessed to the crimes, unaware of his manipulated state of mind. As a result, he was sentenced to a life of imprisonment in Azkaban, bearing the burden of crimes he did not commit. Tom seized the Gaunt family's signet ring from Morphin, recognizing its significance as a potent magical artifact, an heirloom belonging to Salazar Slytherin himself. In a chilling display of his dark prowess, he later transformed the ring into his second Horcrux, which he proudly wore as a symbol of his power and conquest at Hogwarts. Ironically, Tom was unaware that the black gem set in the ring was none other than one of the fabled Deathly Hallows, the Resurrection Stone. Lord Voldemort's obsession with pure blood supremacy revealed deeper motivations rooted in primal fear. Born a half-blood orphan, his hope shattered when he realized his ancestors had fallen into obscurity, leaving him bereft of tangible rewards. A deep fear of being unimportant clashed with his strong belief that he was meant for greatness, typical of a narcissistic mindset. Identifying as Slytherin's descendant gave Riddle newfound self-worth, bolstered by the belief in his innate superiority. By extinguishing the Riddle family and assuming a new identity, he sought to solidify the narrative that his great bloodline guaranteed his destined greatness. His extreme anti-Muggle-born sentiment, namely the total rejection of his paternal heritage, rallied support among purebloods. For Riddle, championing a noble cause garnered blind devotion, amassing power and wealth. By infiltrating influential circles, he aimed to secure autonomy and ascend to unparalleled supremacy, shielded from threats. Tom's transformation into the Dark Lord symbolized a relentless pursuit of power, fueled by a desperate desire to transcend humble origins and ascend to supremacy. This was his ultimate choice.
Enemies of the air,
Tom Marvolo Riddle was dead forever. Lord Voldemort had arisen.
beware.
Light and darkness. I've always considered the boundary between these two entities so thin that it's almost invisible. Because you see, without one, the other one cannot exist. It's as if they were two sides of the same coin, don't you think? As a wise wizard said many, many years ago, no one is destined to walk exclusively in shadow or in light. Destiny, in fact, is a neutral concept. What truly makes the difference is our choices. And today, with a more serious Quentin Penterin, the theme of the episode demanded it, I invite you to reflect on your lives, dear viewers. Your choices are the ones that shape your destiny. And with this reflection, I bid you farewell and say goodbye until the next thrilling episode of Spellbook Chronicles. Nox.